Hi, Club Scouts. Before we get into today's episode, I have some more Patreon shout-outs. I want to thank Katie Lilly, Mitchie Out, Jimmy Quaisian, hope I said that right, Robin H., and Matt Mesek.
Yay.
Raza, Robin H., Chris Davila, J.A. Rickard, Caitlin, Charles Passons, Heidi Hamer, or Heidi Hammer if you're a superhero, Angel Portella, and Molly Ches.
Nice.
Thanks for your pledge as well. Guys, thank you so much. If you want to check out the Patreon page and support the show, it's www.patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub and unlock multiple reward episodes every month. Now, time for the show!
It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Yes! Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we share personal paranormal histories with celebrity guests and tell tales of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
and our producer,
Riley Bray.
And we are back after a summer break
Yeah.
for an all-new series of episodes with Bigfoot Collectors Club. Of course, the listeners at home, you guys didn't miss a week, but the guys here in the clubhouse, Bigfoot boys, we haven't seen each other for a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
It has been a minute.
It's
and
so nice to be back.
I'm pretending like it's really tough to pretend to delay the intro for our guest today because very excited.
Because I'm a foot and a half next to you.
Yeah. And
little-
we just put him right in the chair and shoved a microphone in his
Yeah.
face.
It's
awesome.
also just a little creepy. I'm just sitting here looking at you guys. All right, rad. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know who this man is. He is the director of films such as Willow Creek, World's Greatest Dad. He is also the creator of Bobcat Goldthwait's Misfits and Monsters, currently airing on True TV. It's a man by the name of Bobcat Goldthwait.
that's-
What's up, dude?
Hey, how are you? I'm glad I'm me.
So are
with
we.
that introduction. I'm good. I've been busy, but I'm very happy.
Oh man, we are so happy to have you.
Thanks.
I just want to say up front, your support of the show has not gone unnoticed. So thank you for following us
Sure,
on Instagram
sure.
and liking all the pictures we post.
Well, Bryce, obviously, our bond is we did Willow Creek.
Yeah.
But we've been friends for years before that. But it was funny when I called him up with the idea for Willow Creek. For the listeners who aren't aware of it, that's a found footage movie we made. We shot it in Willow
That's right.
Creek, but the thing is I wasn't even through with the pitch, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm there, Bigfoot, yeah, right."
I remember I was in Canada and you called me and yeah, I remember just jumping on. I'm your man.
Yeah,
I'm your
and
man.
you really
Big-
were.
Yeah, totally.
So, and we shot it there. We what's the name of? I mean, I think of Louse Camp, but what's the?
That's it.
But what's the place? The actual Patterson Gimlin
Bluff
footage
Creek.
was shot.
Bluff Creek, yeah.
So we didn't want to traipse around Bluff Creek because for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons I knew that there was markers there that people had
Right.
trying to prove that it was where the footage was shot because of all the silt that had been, so I just didn't want to traipse around. And I didn't want to traipse around an area which means a lot to a lot of people.
And an area where there are Sasquatch roaming.
Well, it was
No, we were
Sasquatch wasn't a problem as much as the mountain lions.
Yeah. Oh my God.
We saw 2 mountain lions.
Did you guys really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he did, and then he's like,
We saw. Well,
we should shoot up here.
no, it's worse than that because I was like insane when I was making the movie. I was like, "We're gonna get this." Like I was nuts.
Yeah.
And yes.
You were looking for a cave for your finale.
but there is no cave,
Right. No.
And I didn't realize. Well, when the sun goes down, everything's a cave.
Yeah,
I
it's
like-
just
you
the
know what's in
woods
caves,
becomes a
don't
cave.
you? Yeah, animals.
Yeah.
Animals are in caves.
So, Evan, he comes down, one of our crew guys. It was a tiny, tiny crew. I think our only crew guy. And he goes, hey, what's the difference between a bobcat and a mountain lion? I was like, well, a bobcat is kind of stocky and has a short tail, and mountain lion's tall and has a long tail. He goes, yeah, I just saw a mountain lion. And I was like, well, where? He goes, it's just down that path there. I go, well, let's go film over there. But like Bryce is like, I think this location's a 5.
Yeah.
Or 4, I think he said.
I have a bad feeling
you
about
go, this is like a 4. Maybe we should go.
Well, he's traipsing me up this steep mountain. And he's like, yeah, so Evan saw a mountain lion go that way. So we're just going to head this way real quick. I was like, dude, I'm not going any which way. I'm like, are you sure you need a cave?
And then I remember like at one point, Bryce had been sweating in the scene, and then we were doing like a pickup where I go, oh, you need to be sweating, and he wasn't sweating then. I go, well, just spray a whole bunch of off on your face, and then it'll beat up and it'll look like sweat. He goes, off is not sweat. Like he was,
oh my God.
So we saw a mountain lion run across the street, and then we saw one right where we were filming. And so there's a scene in the movie. It's almost 19 minutes long.
Oh, I love that scene. I think about it all the time.
And the first take we did, the camera never cuts, and it's just stationary, and they're hearing things outside. And so the first take, Bryce started crying. It was like 3:30 in the morning.
It's true.
And I go, that was really good. I just don't think your character would cry. And he's like, my character's not crying. I'm crying. We can film this in a parking lot. No one knows that we're here. Why are we filming it here? And I was like, that's really good. Use that emotion in the scene. Just don't cry.
Right. Don't be such a pussy.
Let's go again.
Next take, shits his pants.
Yeah. I mean, because we were actually in, it's called Louse Camp, which is basically like the home base for all the people who go pay homage to Bluff Creek. This is the campsite where they actually camp, and I believe it's where even Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin might have camped at one night or two as well.
Right, and it's you hope that it was, because it was, I believe that was built by people who were making a road that they never finished.
Yeah.
That's correct, I think.
But there's an eerie feeling of being there. I mean, even like being in that tent, like...
I was like, now, was there a General Louse, I'm hoping, that this was named after, not the insect?
Yeah.
Right.
Turns out there wasn't a General Louse.
Right.
You all brought home bugs.
Yeah. So this is General Cootie's camp. So we just shot the movie really down and dirty, and we were there, and we had a lot of the some folks from the Bigfoot community. That's why I think the calls are done pretty well, and all the stuff was trying to be as true as possible. I didn't want to do a movie making fun of Bigfoot believers. I initially thought I was going to make like a Christopher Guest movie where
that would have been a different
where it was
movie.
a Bigfoot convention, and then I went to a Bigfoot convention, and I was like, this is just mean,
right?
Yeah.
So where I'd have a bunch of comics, because I was at this Bigfoot convention, and this guy, he's got a pointy-headed Bigfoot and a cardboard cutout, and the other guy looks at him and he goes, "You disgust me." Because Bigfoot's got a flat head. And he goes, well, I've seen Bigfoot 3 times, and you never have because you smoke.
Right.
So that was that argument. But that
sounds like me and Bryce on every episode of the show.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, the native peoples believed that they would offer tobacco to Sasquatch. So that blew a hole right in that guy's thing. So, but then during the keynote speaker, before he came on, this other guy came on. He started talking about UFOs, and about a third of the room went, "Oh." Like,
yeah.
Who invited this kook?
It's a divisive topic.
Oh my god! Yeah, it
connection.
really is.
Right.
Yeah, and all the different versions.
A divided community.
Well, the thing that I love about what you did do in Willow Creek, and aside from it being an actual scary movie, which I thought you did really well, was all the sort of kitschiness of the Bigfoot stuff is just inherently there while filming around Willow Creek, the town itself, which I've been to and I love. And I had just watched the film about, I would say, a month or two after I had been up in Willow Creek. And there's that great scene where Bryce, you and the actress who plays your girlfriend, are sitting and eating the Bigfoot burgers.
Oh yeah,
with the buns that are the shape of a foot. And I remember being like, "Oh man, I didn't know that place was there."
I didn't know.
You didn't know how sick it made us too.
Yeah. That was the thing. I guess the Bigfoot burger wasn't delicious, but they were nice enough to let us film there.
Yeah.
So these guys are going,
But it's cool because I love that town with all the like wooden sculptures of Sasquatch and the murals of like Bigfoot helping the pioneers build the town. So that's the fun of it, the fun side of it, without making fun of it, is sort of in the fabric of the film.
Well, what's left me so proud is I like to think of it as, I mean, there's only just like a handful of actual Bigfoot movies, and you know, I'm pretty proud of the fact that ours kind of ranks up there as being. I'd like to see it as like a classic status someday. You know, as far as
I think
Bigfoot movies
folks
go.
in the community do seem to like it because although I mean a lot of folks prefer the benevolent Sasquatch and it is a horror film. You know, there is that, but you know when you look back, most people who are into Bigfoot. The gateway drug was Boggy Creek or In Search Of and stuff. And Boggy Creek is obviously a scary movie. So, you know, I got a little grief. Why did you make a scary Bigfoot movie? But, you know, I mean, if I had done, you know, Harry and the Hendersons or something, I don't know. I just would have been
wouldn't
weird.
have been the same.
If Bigfoot comes out and he's got a flower.
Yeah, no.
There's no movie.
It wouldn't have worked.
Friends.
Hey, let's cook breakfast together.
Yeah. Don't eat the Bigfoot burger. It'll hurt your tummy.
Totally.
All right, well, speaking of making fun of Bigfoot, I have a news story I want to share with you guys this week. And Bobcat, please feel free to chime in on this. You've probably already heard this story. This came out about a week ago, but since we were on hiatus, it's news to us. So here is BCC News. This is from the New York Times. Leslie Cockburn, a Democratic congressional nominee in Virginia, accused her Republican opponent, Denver Riggleman, on Sunday, July 29th, of campaigning with white supremacists and being an author of Bigfoot-themed erotica. Yes, you heard that correctly. Mrs. Cockburn's accusation, which was made in a tweet, prompted a frenzy of jokes on social media and a denial from the Riggleman campaign. In an interview on Monday, Mr. Riggleman said that he was writing a book about people who believe in Bigfoot, but denied that it contained any erotic content. He said any eyebrow-raising images of Bigfoot on his social media accounts were a result of a 14-year practical joke between me and my military buddies. And here is the photo that was retweeted that Denver Riggleman had put on his Instagram or Twitter account.
Dude's ripped.
Wow. It's a sketch. Bigfoot. It's a crude sketch of Bigfoot.
He's got like Christ-like abs
and a 3-foot long schlong that is censored.
Well, but that's just the word censored in a black strip. It could have stopped maybe.
Well, it seems to imply that it goes down to his knees.
Yeah. But so here's the thing: like this became a news story, like because of the Bigfoot erotica. 2 years ago, being a white supremacist would have been the lead.
Right. No, I know.
Now it's like, hey, not only is he a white supremacist, this guy likes Bigfoot erotica, which is terrible. That this is like something that was a joke 14 years ago, and I mean, I can't believe I'm like, am I defending a white supremacist?
Well, apparently now, Riggleman denies that he is a white supremacist, but he has been apparently campaigned with a state senatorial candidate who has said some pretty white nationalistic stuff. So
that's the thing. I'm done watching out for people's feelings. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Let's stop it.
Yeah.
I like the other day I heard an interview on NPR. They were interviewing guys from the Proud Boys movement, and they the first guy they do his interview, and he didn't want to use his last name. I go, well, that flies right in the face of the name of your group.
Right. You didn't see it that way.
You're Ashamed Boys, then. You're not Proud Boys.
Well, now, hold on a minute.
Yeah. So just don't use my last name. I'm part of the Proud Boys.
Right.
Huh?
Wait a minute.
Proud Boys Anonymous.
Proud Boys Anonymous.
That's awesome.
What's amazing is there's an interview with conservative television. What is it called? CTR, I believe. Let me see. It's somewhere in here in my article. But there's a YouTube video where a conservative television reporter is interviewing Denver Riggleman about all of this. And he claims to be a Bigfoot skeptic, yet he knows about interdimensional portals. He knows about a 260 million year war between Sasquatch and the Dracos. He knows about Bigfoot's connection with UFOs. He also goes on to describe Sasquatch can attack you with psychic terror vibes.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote a book about going on a Bigfoot expedition. He took his wife on a Bigfoot expedition for their 15-year anniversary. And this book that he claims is not Bigfoot erotica is called The Mating Habits of Bigfoot and the Women Who Love Him.
That's his book?
That's his book. It's a real book that's coming up, and this was supposedly art for the cover of the book.
All right. Now, is the book published? Is it?
I don't think it's published yet, but he is writing it. He claims it's tongue-in-cheek, but if this is a comedy bit, he is really committing to it.
He's got Sacha Baron Cohen, Andy Kaufman levels of commitment.
Yeah, so it's just fascinating. I'm like, he's kind of one of us in a weird way.
No.
Yeah,
well, when it comes to Bigfoot knowledge,
but that's the thing that's weird is that, and it's made me kind of retreat a little bit from the Bigfoot community. Is the amount of conspiracy theorists? There's a lot of right wing kind of folks involved in the community, which is to me is a disappointment. It's stopped being fun for me. Like shows like Coast to Coast when Alex Jones started showing up on there. And I was like, wow, this isn't fun anymore.
It's not.
That's a weird thing. It was sitting around a campfire with a bunch of folks talking about sightings and encounters and talking about theories and stuff. That's a blast.
Yeah. And that's what we do here on this. That's kind of what we're all about is celebrating the lore and the stories and the eyewitness accounts.
It's awesome. And then all of a sudden it's just, and then all of a sudden it's just maybe too many red baseball hats are starting to show up. I mean, you're like, oh man, come on, don't ruin it.
And not that we're a goal oriented podcast, but we try and bring it back to the center a little bit, and you know what I mean, and just bring it back to that kind of old school feeling that you were just talking about.
Well, that's what's fascinating to me. What is Bigfoot if it's not a mammal, an 800-pound wood ape? What does it represent for thousands of years? What is it? Was it just simply someone saying, "Hey, don't go into the woods" to their kids?
Right.
There's a
boogeyman
monster
out there.
Yeah. But why does it keep showing up in all these different cultures? So that does fascinate me on tons of paranormal stuff. I find it really fun. I find it really. I want to live in the world of what if, not in the world of absolutes.
So this is a perfect time to ask you, Bobcat, what is your personal paranormal history?
When you were doing the introduction, I was trying to think of it, and the first thing that came to my mind, and this isn't really paranormal, but I was talking to my brother Jimmy, and I said, I remember as a kid this really weird dream where we were walking out at camp and it was just raining frogs, and then we just started picking them up. Whoa. They were really tiny, and we just picked them up in our shirts, and there was hundreds and thousands of them all over the street on the road we were walking. And my brother goes, "Oh, that wasn't a dream. That happened."
Wow.
Yeah. So what is that? I don't know. And I definitely, and we came back with our parents who had a lot of beer in them, and we were like with shirts full of little tiny frogs, and we go, "It's raining frogs," and they go, it's just. They didn't care.
How old were you when this happened, do you think?
I was probably like 6 or 7.
And where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Syracuse, New York, but this was in the Adirondacks where this would have happened.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. How does that happen? What is that?
Well, that was in that film Magnolia. That was in the finale scene. It starts raining frogs.
Those big,
like big bullfrogs.
Bullfrogs, yeah. When I was, they were just little tiny. And they were little tiny, so they didn't have them mass to be destroyed when they landed. Right. They were all alive.
That is some sort of weather phenomenon somehow, like little baby frogs will get sucked up by.
How does it happen?
I don't understand, but I remember learning about this as a kid, and now I've totally forgotten. But it happens, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not like I don't think your meteorologists really like. You know what I mean?
There's a frog storm brewing.
40% chance of frogs.
40% chance of frogs. You might want to. We're gonna have. It's also gonna be raining blood and locusts. So wear your raincoat.
But as a kid, you must be thinking in terms of biblical. Like you're like, this is crazy shit happening. You know?
No, I wasn't thinking Bible. I was more like, holy, what is? I mean, do you want to know something? I wasn't as amazed at them falling from the sky. I was so excited to see that many frogs.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I was that
this
age.
is awesome.
Look at this is frogs.
Yeah.
You know, like a year or two later, it would have been my uncle's Playboys would have fell from the sky, and I would have been, oh my god, this is the best shit ever. But
man, that would be cool if you were just when you were a kid. There would be the occasional Playboy storm.
Well, I said that because my uncle had left. I had an upstairs attic in our garage, and became like a fort. And then he brought in his some of his junk, his antiques or something. And then in this boxes we're poking around as a kid was like this collection of Playboys from the 60s. And it was like when we found it, we were probably like 10 and 12. And it was like in my head when I remember the story, they were backlit. Right. You know, and this choir of angels. Yeah.
It's like the suitcase, the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then they all all the women had tan lines. So I really thought like that's how
it was like some sort of birthmark.
Yeah, like I thought everybody had
That's what beauty is.
white
Bikini
genitals.
shaped. Yeah.
White. Well, white. Yeah, everything was white.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh man, that's
It took me a while to figure that out.
See, I didn't have an uncle, but I did have woods near my house, and occasionally you would find the weird bag of old porn that was buried out in the woods.
What?
That's not that like fun 60s Playboy
No,
porn.
this
That's
is
like a
just
whole
like
other.
Some weird
like
porn.
weather-beaten old Hustler magazines.
I've
that
never
you
heard
would
of anybody finding a
What?
weird
You never
bag of
found
porn
porn
out
in the woods when you were-
No, I
It's by
have
the-
not.
You never. Come on. Yes, you never.
And there'd be the porn leprechaun running away.
You found me porn. Good for you.
The prodigal.
You can stay out of the woods now. There's porn in there.
You get 3 porn
Scary
wishes.
Maybe
scary
it's
guy.
somebody offering it up to Sasquatch.
Oh yeah,
That makes me want to go bury some porn in the woods.
I
now.
found
Yeah.
Bigfoot's stash.
Well,
my
if
God.
Bigfoot, if there is now, yeah, I've heard about Bigfoot erotica for years, and you've seen. I haven't watched it, but you've certainly seen images. You know, there's movies.
Now hold on, Bobcat.
What?
Where have you seen these
I go,
images?
you certainly have in the bag I found in the woods. No, it was there's Bigfoot porn. You know,
Yeah.
You see ads for that when you're looking.
There's.
when you're looking for Bigfoot online.
I don't know what you're talking
Are you
I
about.
think the idea that you're looking at porn. And you go,
Bobcat,
whoa, wait,
are you announcing your campaign to run for congressional office?
I am. I think. Yeah. So that's a weird thing. So we were Robert Lederman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was helping us. He's a park ranger, but
Ranger Rob.
and he's a believer, and he was helping us with a lot of the calls and helped us. Tom Yamarone and all these guys, they helped us find the spot and go to make the movie and it's like, what is it, a couple hour drive down 11-mile road. It's not easy to get to.
No, it's pretty treacherous,
and then
too.
you hike in and but we're sitting around the campfire. First of all, it's kind of funny because Yams is Tom Yamarone. He's the Bigfoot Bob Dylan. You know, he's got a lot of songs centric to Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, I think Bryce, you brought this guy up on the show.
and he
before.
sings and a lot of the songs are even about like historical sightings and stuff.
There's a lot of factual information
Yeah.
embedded
so
in the
Yam's
songs.
sitting around singing, and he's sung like his catalog, and this is like late night, and we're around the fire, and go, hey, Yams, you know any other songs? And he goes, you guys like Jewel? I go, I would love to hear Jewel. And then Timmy and Tom Yams did a Jewel song. And then, so Robert and I are talking, and he says, I'm a writer too. This is after we saw a mountain lion. So I'm like sticking next to the guy who's a ranger, possibly has a gun.
Yeah, let's hope so.
So he says,
he's got ranger fists too. He can beat a mountain lion off. Wait a minute.
Whoa, easy.
Hold on a second.
That's a whole nother thing, mountain lion porn. So
good God.
So he says, he goes, I'm a writer too. And I go, what do you write? He says, well, I write, Twilight. I go, sure. He goes, well, I write tween-centric, story set in the Bigfoot world. I write like Twilight, but for young adult. And I swear to God, I go, what's the name of your book? He goes, well, Yeti or Not.
Yes.
It's a coming of age tale.
So a coming of age
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeti or Not. And then so I was on Wait, Don't Tell Me, and you have to have a bluff story when you're on Wait, if you know the show on NPR. They have one real news story, and then you have to write one. And no one ever picks me, so I think I'll just write about Robert's
Yeti or Not.
Yeti or Not.
Yeah.
Because people were upset because later on when he wrote a novel, he introduced, I think, wood nymphs or something, and then people are like, what are you doing? So
the wood nymphs really ruined this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, the integrity. So, don't make us look silly. So he goes, so I write this up as a story, and it's the first time they picked me. They say that's the true story. But I'm supposed to not have the true story. It's
right.
Because another person has the true story.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. And so everybody...
Oh, no.
I go, I got to tell you, this is kind of based on a true story. And they go, what? They go, well, what's part true? I go, well, there is a Robert Lee. He did write...
Your story broke the game.
Yeah, they go,
what part about this game don't you understand?
And I go, it was a book, Yeti or Not. He goes, well, what was the part that wasn't? Well... Yeah, he did write a book where there was and some fairies in it, but I'd come up with a fake name for that.
Yeah,
and I go, that's not a bluff at all.
Right.
I broke. Wait, don't tell me.
I love it. Have you been back on since?
Yeah, I was just on last week.
Right on.
It was the first time I'd ever won I won.
Nice.
Well, that's great.
And I've done the show a million times, but I never had won. But let's talk about Bigfoot. Now, you're not Bigfoot-centric, though. You have other paranormal...
No, yeah, we cover it all on this show.
Right.
I think the Bigfoot part is an homage to the first discussion that Bryce and I had about the paranormal, which came on the heels of me seeing your movie, Willow Creek. Because I had just started, shortly after that, worked with Bryce on a guest star on a show. And I was like, oh, my God, I just watched Willow Creek. I love that movie. You were great in it. And he's like, let me tell you how I feel about the paranormal. And I was like, got it.
Wow.
Yeah, we started talking about aliens and Bigfoot, and it was on. So
yeah, I thought it'd be easy to do. Like you could just keep remaking Willow Creek, but just it'd be really easy. But
it's left open for a sequel.
Well, not Willow Creek, but like it'd be easy to go do like a lake monster story.
Oh yeah.
And a 2-man sub that gets damaged. It's in the bottom, and something's outside.
You're already there.
But, I mean, that's so easy, But
damaged sub, 2-man sub.
Well,
how soon, Bryce, would you start crying in a submarine?
Oh, it wouldn't take long. It wouldn't take long at all.
I like the idea of doing like an Area 51 or maybe like what's the place in Texas with the lights?
Are you thinking of Skinwalker Ranch?
No, it's the Marfa.
Oh
Marfa
yeah, Marfa,
lights,
Texas,
sure.
Of course.
where people will like take hallucinogens and look at the lights and I was thinking there's people who are just tripping balls and then they start going to the light and then they go through like a military kind of thing and then something horrible happens. Someone's lost, and they come back, and cattle mutilation, and just have all the regular stuff.
Totally.
And then at the very end, like dawn is breaking, and these guys, you'd think they're, they're almost dead. They just had the worst night of their life, and then they see the army and they flag them down, and then the army just raises their guns and just mows them all down. I just think
Spoiler alert!
Yeah,
to a movie you hasn't been made yet.
I come up with ideas, and I have no problem.
That would be an awesome movie. I'd still go see it.
But I have no problem like telling these stories because I don't know, if someone stole it or something. I don't know. I'm just like, knock yourself out. It doesn't bother me, Like if you can get a movie going, hats off.
With
even if it was
that
my
premise,
idea. Yeah.
Let me ask you: Is there room for a scene where they find porn in the woods?
Absolutely.
Well, that was the story when I was a kid. You go, where did you get that beer? And they go, oh, we found it on the side of the road. So there's like the beer ferry was going out, leaving beer
porn
on the
ferry,
side of the
beer
road.
ferry.
Yeah,
Should explore
Maybe
those,
that's what
features.
Bigfoot is. Maybe he's the one just leaving all this stuff for kids to find.
Yeah.
He's just your cool uncle.
Yeah.
It's
really
cool
is.
Uncle Bigfoot.
He's like a prepubescent, like spirit guide
Yeah.
my friend
to usher you through puberty.
My friend Larry has a story where he was outside of San Diego, and he like a totally square, right on, sober-minded guy, and he's funny and everything. But he just tells a story about this silent craft flying over his head.
Yeah.
And it's not like, it didn't change his life or anything, but it's just this.
But he saw it.
But when he tells it, it's clear. It's not like he doesn't get heat out of it. And I knew the guy for a while before he ever told me that. And he also kind of, I guess you just kind of dismiss that kind of stuff. Not dismiss, but you just go, oh, yeah, that did happen. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It's always fascinating to me when I talk to people who have stories like that, and it does not, like, they don't skip a beat in their life. They're just like, yeah, I saw it, I witnessed it, and I'm totally moved on.
I don't understand that disconnect. Like, it's like, if because I've seen stuff in the sky, and it's like, it just sends me right back down the rabbit hole, like on the internet, going,
right,
what did I see? Who else has seen something like this? And like, what does it mean? And
what about like when you do see something and it's just so fun to be staring? Like there was a bunch of filmmakers when we were watching this thing, and then it finally got close to us, and it was a bunch of Marla balloons that had escaped. But it was so fun for that first like that half
the moment
hour
of mystery when you're like, what is it?
Yeah, it's like moving really oddly, and it's in the like it had this metallic pop and light
I know
was
exactly what
bouncing
you're
off
talking
it.
about. Yeah,
and that's the part where there's one buddy going, "Oh man," and the other storytellers we were also excited. So I think that's where I land on all this stuff. Do I believe I kind of don't want to be in a world where there are no UFOs and unexplained phenomenon? So I would say I'm very open.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, like, I don't want to be that cynical because it's just a blast.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. Your worst night out. Your worst your worst day or whatever, you were looking for Sasquatch, which I've done. If it goes poorly, you just went camping.
Yeah.
You're
still having a good time.
And I've always said, like, I don't want to be the person to film Sasquatch because it's just like comedian Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
Well, and then you really don't get away from that for the rest of your life.
Well,
if
do you
you're
remember?
that guy.
Bryce, do you remember the guy who was showing us that it was trail camera footage? It was fascinating to me. He was showing us this footage, and there was this. It was like a ferret weasel kind of thing. I think it was called a merit that was supposed to be. It was supposed to be extinct, and he filmed it, and then he brought it back, and people were, whoa. But while he's showing us this camera footage, that wasn't the thing that he was showing us. He was showing us like possible footprints or something like that
in the background. There's a Bigfoot.
He goes, yeah, there's a merit. Yeah, they
don't worry about that.
They thought they were extinct in 1915, but if you look at that really doesn't. That looks like a footprint, and I'm like,
he's like, they're going to write me up in Scientific American, but that's not what I'm talking about. I want to show you this.
I want to show you that is definitely Bigfoot scat.
But that's the guy who you want filming. That's the guy who's going to find Bigfoot and film it. It's the one who's finding evidence for Bigfoot in a film about where he caught an thought to be extinct animal on camera.
Yeah. Well, and then remember he had some sort of math, like there's one Bigfoot to every 400 bears or something.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Oh, man.
I'm like a sliding ruler.
He needed that Bigfoot measurement. That's great.
That's amazing.
Or I can't remember what the amount of bears, so he was waiting to get like 500 bears on camera. I don't know, man.
Awesome. Well, when we come back, we're going to have this week's story of high strangeness. We'll take a quick break. And we're back with legendary Bobcat Goldthwait. And Bryce, you're doing the story of high strangeness this week, aren't you?
I am, I know. And, originally I wanted to do, I knew Bobcat was coming in. I was like, I want to do a story that's connected Bigfoot to UFOs. I wanted to explore that topic a
Bryce
little bit.
Is that guy upsetting a room full of cryptozoologists
I really
at the Bigfoot
am,
conference.
because I really do see a connection. And in fact, I was reading something. It's like, 20% of all Bigfoot sightings are related to UFO incidents as well, which I thought was a pretty big number. So.
Oh boy!
Now just hold on there.
Just wait till he gets to the portals.
Yeah, no shit. So I want to start off with a quote, and it's from Bob Gimlin, who was the witness to the '67 Bluff Creek Patterson film.
Personal friend of ours.
A personal friend of ours.
We don't want to name drop.
That's right. Don't want to name drop. But
we're friends with.
Well, we're friends with Bob. And he says, I've always known that there was something more complex to the Sasquatch phenomenon than it just being a wild animal. And so, even Gimlin's kind of gut instincts have kind of led him in later life to go.
He kind of skirted around that a little bit when we spoke with him. Like he started talking about UFOs, and he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, he didn't want to go there.
Yeah, he didn't want to go there. But he clearly does.
Yeah, he does have that sense of feeling. So this is called the Abair Road incident. Are you familiar with it all? So for many, the Abair Road incident was, pretty much just a string of Bigfoot sightings spread over 1 week in the summer of 1976. However, something far more bizarre was taking place, and in addition to hairy creatures, there was an outbreak of UFO reports that erupted in and around Whitehall, New York at the same time, including one lady even reporting a round object landing on her lawn and then taking off, leaving behind a matted circular impression in her grass. And one can't help but to wonder, could there be a connection between this small-town UFO flap and the Bigfoot sightings that followed? Just to give a little history, for centuries, stories of hairy creatures inhabiting the area have been passed down from generation to generation. Samuel de Champlain, he's a famous explorer of the New World, commonly referred to as the father of New France, reportedly documented Sasquatch sighting as early as 1603. Now, by many of his reports are considered the earliest documented sightings of Sasquatch in the North Country, and it came from his journals, and it was stories told to him by Native Americans, the Iroquois and the Algonquin, and they told him of a creature they called Stone Giant or Hairy Wild Man. Also, famous American Revolution soldier Robert Rogers reports that his rangers were chased from the woods by a similar unidentified creature. So Abair Road is in Whitehall, New York, and just to give you a little background on, in your story about the Adirondacks, so I'm glad this is kind of on point.
I think Whitehall is in the Adirondacks.
Yeah, that's right. Whitehall, New York is the birthplace of the U.S. Navy and sits at the base of the Adirondack mountain range, which consists of millions of acres of protected forest lands, including 3,000 lakes and ponds, as well as 30,000 miles of rivers and streams. Just to give you a little bit of to the park. Riley's trying out our it's pretty great.
We're live scoring the stories.
We're live scoring the stories now. So just to give you some idea of the size of this thing, today the park is the largest publicly protected area in the contiguous United States, greater in size than Yellowstone, Everglades Glacier, and Grand Canyon National Parks combined. So the Adirondack mountain range is huge. Now, for the town of Whitehall, it really started in 1975 when a guy named Cliff Sparks, he's the owner of a local golf course, So he's in an electric cart with his dog, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go water 9," and he rolls up, and on the middle of the green, he sees this 7-foot monster with long arms, hairy, and he says he kind of snuck up on it because it was in his electric cart, but then immediately he felt his presence. The creature stands up, and he looks over at him and his dog. And he says, red lasers kind of shot out of his eyes.
Yes.
and he goes, he wasn't looking so much at me.
He was mad. He was trying to sink a putt.
Yeah, he wasn't so much looking at me, but my dog. And the dog just cowers, he says. And then, after a few seconds, it runs off into the woods. And so he reported this to the local news and everything. And so his golf course kind of gained some attention. But now, 2 years later, a creature of similar stature would put the town of Whitehall on the map. So Abair Road sits just a few miles outside of Whitehall, and it's surrounded by fields and forests. Now, it was on this road that late August, I believe August 24th, that 3 boys had an encounter that kind of kicked off a week-long series of events. So it started with teenagers Marty Paddock and Paul Goslin.
It always starts with teenagers.
Yeah. Now they're
pesky teens.
Yeah. Now they're 18 and they're in a small town and they're doing what normal, teenagers do. They're just cruising around,
looking for hidden porn in the woods.
Looking for hidden porn in the woods.
Seeing where that beer ferry dropped off.
Yeah,
totally. So they're traveling
Some
east
hams.
on Abair Road around 10 p.m. when on the left side. The left side of the road, he sees this large, hulking, human-type form. And as they get toward the end of the road, they turn around. So they're driving by, and they're like, "Did you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah." So they get to the end of the road, and they turn around. They go, "Well, let's," they turn around.
This is very like the Dover Demon story.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And so they get back to where it was, wherever they saw it, and it was nothing there. They stop their car right where they saw this thing on the side of the road, and that's when they hear this loud-pitched screaming noise, like from a lady or a pig, right?
The porn's in the bushes! Look in the bushes for the porn!
So they get a little spooked. They take off back to the top of the hill. Marty has a gun in his car, so he takes it out, he loads it, and because he doesn't know if a woman is being attacked or if there was this creature or what. So he loads the gun, he rolls down his window, and he sticks the gun out as he makes his way back to where he hears the scream. All of a sudden, the creature crosses right in front of him and nears the driver's side window. Now, instead of shooting, which I thought was weird, maybe you take a shot, but so many reports, people don't shoot at these Bigfoots when they see this man-like face.
Infrared attacks.
Yeah.
Psychic terror.
Yeah. Marty instead hightails it out of there, and the beast kind of starts to run after him. So they get back to the village at Whitehall where they run into Marty's brother, who's a police officer. His name is Brian Goslin, who basically says, what the fuck have you guys been smoking?
This is, I swear to God, this is season 3 of Stranger Things, right?
Totally. And so Brian Goslin, he can tell his brother and his friend are a little spooked out. So Brian calls his father, who's the Police Chief Wilford Goslin, who just got off duty, and he says, "Well, all right, call the troopers and the sheriff, get them out there. I'm on my way." So now as the teenagers, Marty and Paul, they leave town, they're like, well, they run into their buddy Bart Kinney and on the side of the road.
These names are amazing.
And they tell him, they say, "Hey, you want to go see a monster?" And of course, Bart's like, yeah, hell yeah. So they go back out to Abair Road. And they stop on the side of the road again where they sat there and watched. They didn't see anything. When after a while, he looks on the other side of the road and he sees it just standing there. And he walks right up in front of the car's lights. So he's about 30 feet away in the car lights. And all the boys, they just sit there quietly and they look at it for a few seconds before they really get spooked and they just take off. Now, there's another witness who would later come out, and his name was John Winslow, and he was riding with Brett Kinley, Bart's brother. Now, he says he was in a vehicle approximately 2 minutes behind Marty's truck after Marty hightailed it out of there. And he knows it was approximately right after that because he could smell the tires from the burnt rubber. The original investigator, Bill Brand, measured those tire marks at about 57 feet of tire marks. So they hauled ass out of there. And he says, they pull over and they get a really odd feeling that something's just kind of not right when all of a sudden behind their car something crosses the street And he looks and he looks over his shoulder and he sees it kind of turn and peer into their car window. And it has red eyes, it's large, it's hairy, and it's moving fast, but just walking. Makes its way across the road.
And it's carrying a sack full of old weather-beaten Hustler magazines. So, I'll be back next year, kids.
Yeah, so they fucking tail it out of there. Now, about 10 minutes later, all those troopers arrive from New York State, Whitehall Police, and Washington County Deputy. They arrive on the scene. So it looks like a whole scene is taking place on Abair Road. So Marty, Paul, and Bart, they feel a little bit safer with all the troopers there. So they park their car and they get out along Abair Road. So now Marty Goslin, he goes up to his dad, who's the sheriff, and his dad's like, so what happened? And they start walking out into the field. And he tells this story. He's like, well, I was with my buddy, and we saw this fucking thing. We heard this scream. And he's kind of like, retelling the story. And as they're kneeling down, they hear, all of them, they hear that loud, like guttural, like high-pitched scream, like, oh God, that was the worst. I can't believe I did that. But that's
turns out it was just a turkey.
Yeah, right. But
look at the bushes.
That does not do it justice. So they realize that he's not telling. There's something there. And so now there's basically 11 people out there. That's including 8 police officers from 3 different police departments.
Meanwhile, there's so much small town crime going on that they need
breaking into homes, looting.
It's like the what was that
movie?
They
go, dude, you can put this suit on.
Right.
You'll draw all the cops out in the woods.
Yeah, Die Hard 2 premise.
I'm gonna knock over the diamond store.
So now they've got all the cops and the officers. They've got their spotlights on, and they're examining the field. When they spot with their lights, one of the deputies, he spots something large and hairy walking along the fence line. So now this is the first time everyone gets a really good look at the thing, and they could see the size and the color, which they described as a blackish dark brown, around 8 feet tall, with giant muscles. Now the thing just jumps the fence and runs back out into the thickets. And that's pretty much how it played out when all those officers were there. So an interesting note on that, a guy named Frank McFerrin of Granville, which is right next to Abair Road, reported that at 11:10 p.m., he fired 4 shots at an upright walking hair-covered creature with red glowing eyes on Carver Falls Road, and then he notified New York State Police. So there's a report of this guy taking shots at this thing. So now that night ends, and everybody goes kind of back to their lives, and sort of, until the next day, this New York State trooper, he had heard from his buddies who were out there the night before, and he calls up Brian Goslin. This is Marty's brother, who was a police officer.
I just picture Brian Goslin looking like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
right.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, there's no way not to.
Yeah. You can do that. That's fine for the story. And so he calls him up. He says, hey, I just got off duty. Do you want to go back out there and see if we could see the thing again? And Brian's like, all right, let's do it. And so they go back out the next night to Abair Road. And so Brian and this New York State trooper, he gets remained unidentified. He didn't want to be identified.
By the way, this story is from Denver Riggleman's upcoming book, The Mating Habits of Bigfoot.
That's right. This is all
and
in
the women
there.
who love him.
So he goes out there, and they're both out in the field. When this state trooper, he calls him Mr. Fox because he wants to be left unidentified. He hears him like, "What the fuck is that?" And he gets and he jumps and he spooks, and he's like, and he runs past Brian back into his car and takes off.
What? He leaves him?
Totally leaves him.
Did not have his back.
Did not have his back at all. But he said he was completely terrified by what he saw. So Brian's still out in the field, and he's got his spotlight. He's hanging out on the his patrol car. The door's open and he's got his spot. When he sees it, he catches that beast again. This large 8-foot tall hairy thing with red glowing eyes, and he's got his gun cocked and loaded, aiming right at it. When he says, the beast kind of puts his hand above his face like that, and he could see the human looking hands, the palms, and he could see the human looking like face. And he basically describes it as I got a fantastic look at it from head on. And it's like, and he describes it as like something I know that shouldn't exist. I'm looking at it right in front of my face, And and the thing just slowly starts walking back off into the woods. It doesn't make any quick jolty movements or anything. But he couldn't fire. He didn't fire the gun, and he just sat. And he said he went back in his car, locked the door, and he just sat there for about 15 minutes trying to go over in his head what it was that he had just witnessed. And that was kind of the story of Abair Road. I mean, you have all these multiple witnesses seeing this creature. And after that, the news reports started coming in, and news reporters had came on the scene, and adventure lookers, and it kind of really, that whole thing put it on the map. But
wow, that story, guys. First of all, I don't know if it was this story or the live music being played. Riley, great job.
Yeah,
thanks.
That story's insane.
It really is insane.
And we're going to come back after a quick break, and we're going to ask Bobcat Goldthwait,
what the hell was that? So, Bob, you heard that story?
Yeah, I'd heard of Whitehall, but I didn't know the exact of it. I'd heard
Beast of Whitehall is another name for this thing.
Yeah, because I did hear that story, but I didn't know
that'll
all
be
the
name
details.
for the episode.
Yeah,
Beast of Whitehall.
But that's so awesome, and it would be fascinating. I was while we were doing this, it made me want to go speak with all, because so many witnesses. It made me want to go and interview all those people.
Yeah, well, most of them aren't around anymore.
Yeah, well, 75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian got Paul Gosselin. I mean, Marty, the original driver, he passed away at a pretty young age. So, but Brian is still around, and he wrote a book with his wife, Sue, about their encounters and about the tale. And Bill Brand, the original investigator, who actually, he went out that week and he put everybody on audio tape, all the cops, all the guys who witnessed it.
Awesome.
So their testimony is, and I've heard it played back. There's a guy, I think his name is Seth Greenlove, but he did a film called The Beast of Whitehall.
Oh,
Beast
I think
of Whitehall.
that name sounds really familiar.
He's from Small Town Monsters, yeah. But he did a great little documentary on it.
Ooh, I'll have to look for that.
And in that, you can hear the original taped recordings of the witness accounts, and they're creepy. I mean, these guys obviously saw something, and never once do they allude to it like, oh, it could have been just some dude in a suit fucking with us.
Yeah.
No, they're like red glowing eyes, huge muscles, huge beast, and
now the sphere that the woman saw land in her.
Yeah, so now this took place a week, they're not sure, either a week prior or a week after. This old lady reports to the Whitehall Police Department that something had landed in her yard. Now, Police Chief Wilford actually went out and investigated. So this is the Marty's dad, who was the sheriff. So he went out and investigated along with another deputy friend. And so they were able to witness the matted grass from the circular object. Not only that, there were multiple UFO reports in and around that week and several weeks. Also reported by one deputy, Walter Kruger, reported that he too saw a large light slowly moving to the north. He said it was sort of reddish, hazy color, as well as another deputy sheriff, as did a conservation officer. All report that. So much was there a UFO flap in the area that a local nuclear installation in Lower Rockland County was put on alert.
Wow.
So there was a lot of, and a lot of people don't connect the two together, but
the implication being that maybe these were creatures that came off those crafts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to pass you some pictures. This one up in this tour, it was actually drawn by Marty. But what's interesting about these
this
pictures
looks like a Far Side cartoon.
Is they kind of vary from the normal Bigfoot picture, don't they? I mean, it looks like a large, hairy creature.
It looks like a Bigfoot with Mothman's face.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very Mothman, the absence of a neck.
Yes, right. And those red glowing eyes,
but three of them are pretty awesome. The one looks like Munch from Pizza Time Theater.
Yeah.
The Chuck E. Cheese guy who plays keyboards.
Yeah.
Purple.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe it was Munch. Maybe it was Munch in between gigs. He was not far recording in Woodstock.
Yeah,
totally.
He'd just gotten rejected from the Rockefeller explosion.
Yeah,
Explosion.
That one is Marty's original drawing of what he saw.
Some people excel in drawing, and other folks...
It's got to be so frustrating when you're an eyewitness and you're like, God damn it, this makes me look like an idiot.
Yeah.
But I know what I saw.
Or when you're hearing the story, you're like going, well, why do they just whip out their phones and...
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
likelihood of having a camera.
Yeah.
A camera was something that you you didn't even keep in your car. I mean,
No.
it was
No
like,
joke.
So
You were more
But,
likely to have a gun in your car than a camera.
Yeah.
These
Different
are
time.
the stories that we kind of like. We really like because they're involved trained observers. Usually when it's
Right.
just some person in their trailer, you can't put much weight to
Right.
it. But when you have 8 different police officers from 3 different departments all seeing the same
Right.
thing,
and so if you want to say, well, what was it if it wasn't paranormal?
sure. I mean,
Thing.
what's your gut telling
So
you?
but what would that be? Is it like group? Were they all hallucinating?
Like a mass
together?
hallucination.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, so whatever. It's all really fascinating.
Yeah, their uncle, his name was what was his name? I'll tell you. Glenn LaRose. So he got a little discouraged by everybody kind of just chalking it up to, you guys are just full of shit.
Yeah.
And so he actually went back out to the area searching for evidence, and he was able to find a track in the woods where it happened on
Oh, wow.
Abair Road, and he took a plaster cast of that track.
Oh wow.
And it looks very much like a Bigfoot normal cast that you would see. It's about 16 and a half inches in length, and
Wow.
so he was able to corroborate it with a little bit of physical evidence because he knew that his brother and his nephew had definitely witnessed something, I guess, strange and paranormal.
Well, what do you think, Bobcat? Was that a mountain lion? What the hell?
What was that? I would love and hope that it was Bigfoot. I want to know how big this craft was if he was driving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If they said it's a little thing that landed on the lawn.
Totally. Well, and it was funny.
But what if that's a gateway? What if the craft is some sort of like wormhole itself?
And originally,
Yeah, I mean, I have it very tactile that he's like going, my left. It's like, park on this lady's cool. She said we could use her lawn.
right?
I'm going to just, I got to take a whiz. I'm going to get some Utica Club. That's a local beer when I was a kid. Genesee Cream Ale. Get some Black Label, and then we'll just go. Bigfoot needs beer. I think.
Yeah.
That's a Bigfoot beer run right there. That's
Some
what
of
it
these
is.
stories I found too, when I wanted to do a Bigfoot and UFO connection, there were some reports that I found where people did witness, like a Bigfoot entering a UFO type craft.
Wow.
And there's a few stories just like that, leaving people to wonder, are these Bigfoots, possibly the UFO pilots landing on Earth for exploratory purposes,
Well, I think this one's fascinating because of the amount of police and, whatever they saw, then eventually they're stuck with the prejudice and weirdness,
Mhm.
Weren't you one of the guys that saw Bigfoot, what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So-
stigma's such a big part of all of this.
Yeah,
too.
so a lot of these guys would just eventually give up on the story and, because you don't want to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
like a crazy person.
No, it led Paul, Marty, the original driver, to kind of go and on a quest of like trying to figure out what it all really left them all a little bit shook and a little not embarrassed by what they saw, but there's always that sense of like ridicule that they were highly aware of. Which rings true in so many of these cases where the witnesses usually don't want to come forward and tell their accounts of this stuff.
Do you know that the persona that I did on stage for so long and the movies and stuff?
Don't ruin it for me, Bobcat.
No, the very first time I did that character on stage, he had seen Bigfoot.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that was he was just like stuttering, nervous, and he's like, and he was like, I know what I saw, and it was no bear.
That's crazy.
It would just be this guy who was having,
that's
who was
awesome.
completely flipped out, and then he finally blurted out, "Yeah, I know what I saw, and it ain't no bear."
Right.
He kept repeating the story about me, and my brother.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That was
brings it all together.
And I never tell that because that was actually, when I think about it, that was the birth of that character.
Wow,
That's insane.
And without that, we would have never had one of my favorite movies of all time, One Crazy Summer.
One Crazy Summer. It would have. It was called Greetings from Nantucket, I think, when we made it.
Really?
But Warner Brothers changed it to One Crazy Summer, and Savage Steve Holland said if they released Woody Allen movies, they'd be called One Neurotic Jewish Guy.
At this point of the recording, Michael was abducted by a giant hairy monster with red laser eyes. That's not true. He had to go to an audition. But Bryce and I kept hanging out, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, more of our conversation with Bobcat Goldthwait.
All right, are we back?
Now we can talk about Michael.
Yeah, what a
I thought he
dick.
was never going to leave.
Obsessed with that porn, that
Blah,
Bigfoot
blah.
porn.
Bigfoot
God,
porn. I thought it was funny that you choked on doing a Bigfoot call.
I really
Mine
did.
sounded like Tarzan there.
It was a half committal. It was
Yeah.
like, oh fuck, I ruined
I was
it.
on. I don't want to brag. I was on Finding Bigfoot, and I did a pretty good Ohio Bigfoot call. But
Right on.
you know what's funny when I was on the show was that I was walking along with Cliff, and we heard something. And he goes, "Oh, that's a such and such owl," and you would have totally have gone, "Well, what the hell was?" You know, what I mean, it didn't
Right.
sound like an owl, and it was a screech, and you'd hear these things. But we did hear something.
Yeah.
And what was fascinating to me wasn't the fact that we heard something, was the normalcy it was to the rest of the crew, and they weren't like, oh, what is, they were like, oh yeah, you know, do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, holy crap, we heard something. It's like, yeah, we hear stuff all the time, yeah.
And the whole crew felt that way too, right?
Yeah,
They
it wasn't
heard
like
stuff and-
people were. Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so you guys really do encounter this stuff. And, you know, it's people, you know, the other day someone just hit me up, where's the bodies?
Right,
I
right.
go, they bury the bodies.
Yeah, why not?
Or,
How often do you, ecologists and people find bear bones when they're out in the woods?
right.
None at all. You know?
Or, you know, we talked about that in Willow Creek too, you know, or like new species of animals show up all the time.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's true.
Where was the bottlenose monkey bones
Yeah.
before?
You know, and my inclinations have always led me to. Sometimes I'm just like, my gut doesn't lean to that. This is like some wood ape that's the missing
Right.
link between I always felt there was some more part of the story that we're not hearing, because sometimes I'll read of incidences where you find a trackway that just kind of even disappears into nothing. Even the Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, after they saw Patty walk up into those woods, they followed it. They tracked it
Right.
on horseback. So they were able to track that that trackway, which they both said just kind of stopped and disappeared.
Right.
And it was getting late, so they had to kind of turn around and
Well, I mean, I don't know what this stuff is. I mean, my only hesitation I have now with my interest in all this stuff is the fact that you have to keep a really open mind.
mm-hmm.
And I'm a little nervous right now with paranormal folks and conspiracy kooks
Yeah.
kind of, you know what I mean?
They can
It's-
intermesh
Totally know what
easily.
you mean.
yeah, and that is that's a really frightening place we're in right now.
It is. They've really taken the fun out of conspiracy theories.
Right, they've
Yeah.
made it where it's
It's true.
so that's the only thing when I saw myself kind of withdrawing from this stuff that I've always found fun since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like things are getting a little scary right now.
Yeah, I have the same feeling, because it's like actual reality now is being pulled into question, and people having this like
Yeah.
alternate versions of what reality is. Like, no, I want to talk about this fun stuff on
Yeah.
the edge.
Right.
Like, I'm good with normal reality.
Yeah,
I mean, God, it's hard to find a grounded stance anywhere.
Yeah.
Where it's the truth is now negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's
really
a
strange.
really
Yeah.
strange
So
time. Yeah.
so here's this thing that was always fun, and now it's we're clumped in with dangerous people.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's one thing that I'm hesitant, but I still love this kind of stuff. So we should we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. just want to say thank you so much for coming on
Thanks
the podcast,
for having me on,
man.
and
Dude,
thanks
what
for
a
being
pleasure.
in so much of the stuff I make. I love working with Bryce.
Dude,
He's,
I love working with you
my
too,
favorite.
man.
He's just so. I just love him, he always does a great job. But we also always have a blast when we make stuff. So we did.
I feel the same way.
We did Sleeping Dogs Lie,
Yep.
which was called Stay, and then we did. What else we did? God Bless America.
God
You
Bless
were
America.
In the Office.
Yep, and then Willow Creek,
and then Willow Creek,
Misfits and Monsters.
and Misfits and Monsters. Yeah,
I love that new Misfits and Monsters.
Oh, thanks,
by the way.
Yeah, man. I've been enjoying the episode so much.
Thanks.
Especially when you told your mountain lion story, and then I hear on a Tony V's episode where he has to get into the lagoon and you take out the alligator sign.
Yeah.
And I'm going, yep,
I've
that's
been there.
Bobcat.
Yeah. It's like, danger, alligators. I go, yeah, take these down before Tony gets here.
We don't wanna
he's got to get in
startle
the water. I don't want, as an actor, I don't want him to be thinking about that. I
No,
just want him
totally.
to give a sincere performance. No, yeah. So you're like, yeah, I know
But
that
I
guy.
related. I was like, that's
It is
Bobcat.
funny that like I'm very always, I do think I'm relatively concerned about other people, but then when I get in that filming mode, it's
you get tunnel vision.
common sense goes out the window.
It really does.
I said to Bridget, I go, would you got in that water? She goes, no, I wouldn't have gotten in the water if I knew there was an alligator warning sign.
I know. But yet somehow, some way, it's like we never lose trust of that, even though we know
that I would do anything to get the shot. You're like, I got all my faith in Bobcat. And I'd be like, cut, and I go down to the shore and look for alligators for a minute. I go, okay, let's go again.
But maybe that appeals to our faith in your creativity, because I got to tell you that like all the projects that we've worked on, it's like never once do you like waver in faith that this is how
we're doing it.
Not only that, but as a performer, we don't waver. I particularly don't waver in faith that this is going to be something that I can be proud of. You know what I mean? So maybe that brings me along with like, he can take me to a mountain lion cave.
But
I guess
Willow Creek, we had no script basically, and we talked about who your characters were, yours and Alexi's, and then shot the movie. And it was really, it definitely, you guys have a lot of faith, and I have a lot of faith in you. So same thing with like these, even Misfits and Monsters, sometimes it's really not on the page. You know, like that episode we did, the script again was the outline, and then we came up with what the episode eventually became.
It's a fun way to work. It becomes really organic. In a
but
sense,
there's other actors who aren't cool with that. You know what I mean? That they're not. That's uncomfortable for them.
Right.
When I say, well, that was good, but just say whatever you're going to say.
Right.
They go,
like,
what?
No.
Why did you write me some lines?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No.
But I'm really proud of that episode that you were in where you're a documentary filmmaker and it's Satan kind of reneges on a deal with a Justin Bieber type character.
Yeah, that was so fun. Well, this episode I believe will air tomorrow, which is
great. So tomorrow night is
why don't you plug Misfits and Monsters?
Misfits and Monsters, which is on True TV every Wednesday night. Tonight's episode, Josh Fadem, Joel Murray, Toby Huss. It's a Jerry Lewis version of the JFK assassination. So it's
awesome.
like, what if Lee Harvey what if like a Jerry Lewis type character was confused from Lee Harvey? You think I shot it wasn't he's in the book depository.
I don't know. Oh no.
So it's time traveling. It's one of the more ambitious visual effects, because we're in Afghanistan in current day. We're all around the world in the future and the past and stuff.
Cool.
And it would be good for your fans, because it's it does have a little conspiracy kind of thing going on. Not that this is a conspiracy show, but you'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bobcat. It's been an honor and a privilege to have you on the Bigfoot Collectors Club.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys.
You're an official member. Welcome back anytime.
Thank you. All right. Great. Bye-bye.
Cool. Later.
Bye.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.